up, everybody? Welcome into the fanciest looking Celtics Talk Podcast in ages. Yes, I'm not in my basement. They have let me out. I am here in studio with Trenni. First time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.
I can't believe, what have I done to you that this is the first time I've ever been invited on?
It's so bad because I sat there and I do this every week. I say, oh man, who on the staff haven't I had on the show yet? And it's just, you're always busy. You have a show to host. You do your thing.
Yeah, that's the excuse.
No,
it's because Celtics fans are like, she hates the Celtics. I do not hate the Celtics.
So I did say I was going to bring you on and pin you in a quarter about hating the Celtics. So Milwaukee fan Trenni here.
I am not I'm just going to tell this story, and this is how we're going to start this podcast. And I told it to Max Letterman today. I did not grow up a massive Bucks fan. I liked the Bucks because they were local. But a few years ago, it was a long time ago now. It was probably 10 years ago. I think they played Atlanta in the early part of the postseason. It was the first time they were good from the big three, in the early 2000s. Someone's calling me. It's Jeff Capitastro. Producer doesn't know I'm doing something. Then I remember saying at the time, I'm jumping on the Bucks bandwagon because they're good and I can afford good tickets to go watch the postseason. And then I moved out here and I've been covering the Celtics now for however long. And in 2019,
that was the switch?
When the Celtics, I moved here in 2012 and I just started sort of adopting the Celtics. Brad Stevens came along at the same time, being a big East Marquette person, Midwest person. I right away gravitated towards Brad Stevens. I just loved this. I just sort of loved the franchise. There was something about the history of it. But in 2019, this is when I knew I was a Celtics fan. The Celtics were playing the Bucks. They, of course, won one. I think they won game one in Milwaukee.
They dominated game one after
crushed them, and
Indiana, and then we all said, here they go. Kyrie was right.
Yep.
They flipped the switch.
They flipping the switch. Here we go. And then game 4 at the Garden. I'm sitting in the NBC Sports Boston suite, and they are just getting pummeled by Milwaukee. It was kind of back and forth. Maybe they had a chance in the fourth quarter, but you knew they weren't going to get it done. I felt sick to my stomach.
No.
I was so mad that the Celtics weren't going to beat the Bucks, and I knew they weren't going to go to Milwaukee and do it. And I knew right then and there, I was so angry and emotionally invested that I was a Celtics fan.
Yeah, you picked the wrong year to fully go emotional investment. That team was dreadful.
But I had gone full emotional investment prior to that, but I was excited and they were playing my hometown team and I was like, you know what? I've been saying for so long how much I love living in Boston, how great it is here. And now I felt you get that feeling in your gut? That's how I felt when they were losing. And so now, if I love you, I hold you to a high standard.
You certainly do, and we're going to talk about that. Do you consider yourself a Bostonian now? Are you like Brad Stevens? He comes out, he's going to find the dunks and all that?
I'm still not I'm still a massive dunks person. I'll drink it, but I'm still probably leaning more Starbucks. I just find, more Starbucks around the country. Mostly I just like making coffee at home with my fiance.
Well.
But yeah, I do kind of consider myself. I always say that I'm sort of straddling two worlds, right? There's a part of me that is very much like Boston. I love Wordle and maps and running by the Charles.
Wordle's
going to
a regional thing here?
Well, smart people.
Okay.
Really smart people live in Boston, right? I think of this as a very educated, cultured town. Everybody likes to travel all over the world. But there's also a part of me that still likes to go to Wisconsin and drink a spotted cow, eat fried cheese
100%.
curds, and ride and not drive a car, but take our ATV, our all-terrain vehicle, to the grocery store. So there are two very different, and go on pontoon types.
Yeah.
But I also really like to go to Nantucket. So I'm very torn in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different regions.
This podcast has already gone off the rails, but I'm all for it. And because I every time I go through the Milwaukee airport, I want to grab some of that spotted cow.
Do you go through the recombobulation zone?
You've
noticed that, right?
Yeah, of course. But that's a lot of airports now.
Wait, they have that in other airports?
For sure.
They copied us?
Yeah. I don't know if they definitely put up the sign, but a lot of them have the recombobulation.
Well, they have the area, but they don't call it the recombobulation.
There's some signage.
Okay, anyway, basketball.
Either way, here we go.
Anyway, basketball.
Speaking of recombobulation areas, the Boston Celtics, who were pretty bad for the first 2.5 months of the season, started getting themselves together. So you said you threw yourself all in on the 2019 group. How are you feeling about the 2022 crew?
I am dipping my toe back into the investment water. Like last night, well, I shouldn't say last night because this is a podcast.
No, that's fine. This comes out today, baby.
Oh, it comes out today. Great. Well, so last night when they were playing the Atlanta Hawks in the first half, I text John Tomasi, who I believe has been on this show before, because earlier on Early Edition, he said, I believe in this defense, everything about this defense. And I text him at halftime, I go, nice defense you got there. But then they only allowed, 33 points in the second half and 13 points in the third quarter. Like, I found it amazing that everything that anyone was like conversing about, whether it was online or the halftime shows, Jason Tatum has to stop putting up three-pointers just because that's the way he feels he has to play the game. He has to drive the basket. He has to draw fouls. They have to play defense to get better on offense. They did all of those things in the second half, and that was impressive to me, right? Because I feel like this is a team, and why they've been frustrating is sometimes they fall into these bad habits and they don't snap out of it. But that has been changing as of late. Like, I will be rooting for them to go far in the postseason. But mostly because there's not an I in team, but there is a me in media. It's good for us, Chris.
It is. Selfishly, I tell people all the time, they say, do you root for the team? I said, well, I was born here. I have some attachment to the team. I'm attached to Robert Williams. But, it's good for business, too. So that always helps. It has been a lot more entertaining to watch. I think the part of what was so off-putting about this team at the start of the year was that they were so bad, and they would fall into those bad habits, isolation ball and
hero ball.
Yeah, and look,
lapses on defense, logging down the flight.
They still do it.
What's great about this team, and what's always been good about this team, and I don't know if it's just because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were younger, or it was a Brad Stevens identity, but what I think I liked about them is they always played hard and with an intensity that you don't typically see from star teams in the NBA. And I understand that now they're becoming a star team, but they're not quite there yet where they can take plays off. And so it's frustrating to me that they take plays off because they think they're there yet. Like, you're not there yet.
Yeah. So, and look, we were just talking on Celtics Post Up today. They said 24. Jason Tatum just about to turn 24. He's a pup.
I know, but so is Luka Doncic. Like, he just turned 20.
But Luka still makes some bonus plays.
He just turned 23. So there's a lot of good young stars. And I understand, I think somebody said, too, LeBron James didn't win his first title until he was, 25 or 26. Yeah. So no one's expecting it to happen overnight. For me, I guess I'm just an effort person.
But it can. It can happen overnight if you want to. It would be okay. It's like we don't have to wait. And that's part of my thing with Jason Tatum and that's why this week is so interesting to me. Trae Young the other night. Now we got Ja Morant coming tomorrow. KD and Kyrie on the weekend. Here's a chance to show where you stand amongst elite players, or in particular the start of the week, elite young players. Where's Tatum sit for you? In terms of, you don't have to rank him 1 to 10, but I'm just saying, is he in that 1A of young players, or is there?
Absolutely. Wouldn't you put him, if you were ranking, let's just take Ja Morant, Jason Tatum, Trae Young. Yeah. Wouldn't you go Morant, Tatum, Young?
I might still have Tatum ahead of Ja. I love Ja, and I think but there's very much a recency bias with he's phenomenal to watch.
Well, and also I feel like he's carrying it, and I know Collins has been out a lot, but he has still managed to carry the Grizzlies in his absence. And I feel like sometimes Jason Tatum doesn't, if there isn't Marcus Smart out there, or Robert Williams is hurt. They haven't had their full complement, and sometimes you can really count on Jason Tatum to get you that 35-point performance. But there are also times where he falls into slumps that he has a hard time getting out of. I guess that's the only reason, and it is recency bias, right? Yeah. That he's also 2 years older.
Of course.
And John Morant's doing this, at 2 years sooner than he did it.
And again, not to take away, Ja has been unbelievable, must-watch basketball.
He broke my heart, my college heart. So.
Oh, really?
Marquette, remember? Crushed us in the NCAA.
You want to relive it? Or?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, we'll just move right along then. So the Celtics, the big topic of conversation, obviously Jaylen Brown goes down. But did your heart stop like it did mine? Because it felt like they just got healthy. And I know it's been a little bit of a stretch here, but it's here we go. They just started the surge. We're starting to maybe figure out what this team is, and now Jaylen goes down. And it looked really bad. Now they've said, Ime comes out today and says he won't play tomorrow against the Grizzlies, but it won't be a long-term injury. But they just have so little wiggle room for injury, right? Because there's 7 guys they lean on, and one of them is now out. So how you feeling when you watch Jaylen Brown go down?
When he went down, also just the noise, the groaning, the pictures, and the turn, it makes your stomach turn, right? But then you see him get up and walk off the court, and you think, okay, you're probably not, especially if it's an ankle, because I think at one point it looked like it might have been a knee, but then he actually grabbed his ankle. If you're walking off on an ankle, you have to sort of assume it's not the worst. But I do worry about the fact that this team can't get into a groove, and because they are still relatively young, how much do you have to play together and gain that confidence, but also gain in a rhythm with each other, so that rhythm is there in the postseason. Like that's why it crushes me that he goes down, because I feel like they were finally sort of. But I guess the positive of it is, maybe now, if you're Jason Tatum, maybe you learn that lesson you haven't learned yet, similar to last night, where you can't always just chuck up a 3 or a long 2 and try to get the team back in it, that you have to rely on the pieces around you when you're Robin to your Batman.
Yeah, and I think this is a huge thing where I don't think Tatum has always had the confidence to say, like, Grant Williams, as good as Grant has been, you're going to knock down this 3 in a big spot. Peyton Pritchard, like any of these dudes. And last night felt like the first time. Even Al Horford, who has been a really streaky shooter this year, he hit Al on like a fourth quarter pass, and Al knocked down the 3. And Tatum was like, yeah! Like,
yes, he screamed, like audibly screamed.
Because it's been so rare that his teammates have helped him out. Like, Tatum has been great as a passer this year, and especially these last couple of weeks. It's nice that he's being rewarded for that effort, because sometimes, like, if I'm the superstar of the team, as much as, it's all falls back on you, right? Like, we go on the postgame show, we hammer Jason Tatum for not carrying them. And now he's doing that, but he hasn't always gotten that effort from everybody else. So,
Dare I put on my green glasses and say, maybe it's a blessing in disguise?
No, we can't do that. No, we know what's going to happen here. The early edition take by Friday is going to be, they'll beat the Grizzlies tomorrow. We'll be like, do the Celtics need to trade Jaylen Brown? And Tom Curran will come storming into the studio.
We got to fill an hour every single night, not just in game nights, okay? So sometimes we got to be a little crazy.
I like to lean into some things. I actually leaned into that whole, they have the best starting 5 in the NBA, and immediately cursed them to be injured. So,
and in fairness, you have come on Arbella Early Edition at times and been like, I'm not buying into this team yet. They got to show me more. So don't.
It definitely took me time, because
can't point fingers.
I'm still very reluctant, because there's the one stat, the late game stat, and now like a game like last night doesn't trigger the clutch criteria, right? So, but was it a great gutsy win? Yes, it's probably the gutsiest win of the year in terms of like having to withstand the 17-point deficit, come back, and just like be as good defensively as they were. So they deserve even more credit for that game, even though the stats won't give them credit for it.
But you do wonder, what if that game would have been a 17-point swing, but then stayed close the entire time, and 100%. They needed to close it out? Like, that's where they haven't showed us that they can do.
We're still waiting for that. I will say, like, the Ringer had there was the Ringer this week that did the very analytical look at it, and their whole thing was that there's no correlation between in-season crunch time numbers and postseason crunch time numbers. And I hadn't really ever stopped to think about it. I just assumed that teams that were bad in the crunch in the regular season would just carry that over. There have been outliers, but one of them was the bubble. The bubble was just weird in general. So I think part of for the eye test, like, you can tell looking at a team whether they are a contender, which I think that the Celtics check a lot of the boxes. But the fact that they've struggled so much late in games gives me pause. So I'll put that on you. What is the biggest reason for concern with this team?
Inconsistency. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, again, even last night, I know maybe the reason they struggled in the first half against Atlanta was that it was jarring for them to see. When your second best player goes down 3 minutes into the game, I think that's going to be a shock to the system. So I don't want to put too much stock into the first half, because they turned it around in the second half. But how many times have we seen them get in big holes? Mm-hmm. And sometimes they climb out of it, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they play defense like they did last night in the second half. And sometimes they play defense like they did against Detroit before, or the Indiana Pacers. Yeah. Right, where there's just not, where it's like, do they have that killer mentality? Mm-hmm. And is Jason Tatum, and I think he has the skills to do it, but can he feel confident to either take the shot when he should absolutely take it in those clutch moments and set him up to be in a good position to take it? And if it's not there, trust the people around him to make the same shot.
Yeah, and like I said,
sometimes sometimes it's not LeBron, right? Sometimes 100%. It's Kyrie.
And that's the one thing that I think they've stressed to Jason this year is, hey, when those double teams come, you got to move the ball. And he's been way better at it the last few weeks than he was at any other point of his career. And I think it's showing in the way that they play. Let's flip it. What's the biggest cause for optimism about this team?
It has to be their defense,
yeah,
right?
I mean,
because if you can, I think that a lot of teams in the NBA, quite frankly, aren't very good on defense, and they don't care that much about playing defense. So if that's your calling card, I mean, I hate to say like defense wins championships, because at the end of the day, I feel like that is not something that works in any sport anymore.
Hi, Patriots.
But if you can have, like, let's just say for argument's sake, that Jason Tatum shoots the way that he should, and Grant Williams does, and Jaylen Brown does, and you get good production from Derek White off of the bench, and Marcus Smart plays good defense. Like, if you have shooters that can shoot, and you have enough of them, and you have good defense, those are the kind of teams that win championships. My thing is, do they have enough consistent shooting after Jason and Jaylen to get it done?
And even Jason and Jaylen haven't been particularly consistent,
right.
which is the problem.
Like Jason struggled from beyond the arc recently again, and he's gone through streaks this season.
Really
so I don't, do they have somebody who, man, like, and I'm not going to say, like, obviously no one's ever going to be Jordan again, not even LeBron, but like, you have that person who, when the whole crowd is going nuts behind the basket, you step back and you nail that shot in the biggest
Durant,
moment.
I mean, even Giannis. Like, I mean, the whole East is full of guys who, like, superstar players that, and a lot of them have now been in that moment.
Showing my age, by the way, going right to Jordan.
I mean, like, I did the same thing. we on Celtics Post Up, we were showing JT walked into All-Star Weekend with a gigantic fur coat and a Michael Jordan on his shirt. So that's I grew up with that too. Yeah. So like that's what I default to when I'm looking for elite talent. All right, we got to use your institutional knowledge of the Bucks. Who should the Celtics? Are they the clear cut, the one team you don't want to see the Celtics match up with?
I mean, not the one team. I mean, I hate to say this, but the one team. I mean, do you really want to see Brooklyn? Do you really want? If everybody is out there the way that they should be, like, I don't care where I'm from, and I don't care how much Kyrie drives me nuts. If Kevin Durant is healthy and can play, and if Ben Simmons is interested in playing defense and plays to his potential, and then you have Kyrie, like, just Durant and Kyrie, like that 1-2 punch, Durant can carry a team almost on his own.
He doesn't need anybody else.
He doesn't need anybody else. And then you add Kyrie, who lots of people, I'm not the first person to say this, I probably just read it somewhere, but Kyrie is a better 2 than a 1.
100%.
So if you, like, to me, and I mean, at least early on, the Sixers have looked better than I thought they would.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I don't
like any of those top teams. Like, I don't look at the Cavaliers and like shaking my ankle boots. I don't look even at the Bulls. Like, to me, the Bulls are maybe a little fraudulent.
You could have been with the outfit today.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm not just. It just was what was in my Rent the Runway. Come on, Chris. You're really hammering me today about my allegiances.
She was prepared for an Atlanta win, evidently. But no, I'm with you because it's a simple answer. But I mean, the Cavs haven't been there. They're very young. They don't have offensive weapons. That's the one you want to see. Chicago after that, because they don't play a lot of defense. They have exploitable matchups. But yeah, so here's where I stand on the sort of the ones at the top. I kind of want Philadelphia. I know it sounds crazy because they're going to get a million fouls. It's going to be maddening to watch. Now with Harden, they're just on a different level. But I feel like Al Horford, like, you dip him in the fountain of youth and you're like, here we go. This is the team that kicked you aside, and he would be beyond fired up. And the Celtics have had their number a little bit.
And if I'm consistent, Philadelphia has not proven with Joel Embiid as their star player that they can win when it matters most. Like, it's one thing to be really good every once in a while. It's another to do it over a 7-game series in the NBA playoffs, which Joel Embiid has not proven. Now, I don't know how much that changes with James Harden, but James Harden is, I'm not misremembering this, he's never won a title. No. He's never, and he also, I think, sometimes is like, sometimes interested, sometimes not interested. Yeah. What worries me about Philadelphia is that this is the time that James Harden would be, and you have a battle-tested coach in Doc Rivers.
Oh, so
I wonder if he can get
through again.
Well, but I do think, like, you have someone who's won a national title and won an NBA title as a head coach.
He's also blown more 3-1 leads. No offense, Doc, I love you, but
yeah, I know. But I do wonder, like, can he get something out of his players that they weren't able to get out of them before in Philadelphia? But again, if I'm going to be consistent, I mean, I wasn't even all in on the Celtics or the Bucks last year. Like, I didn't believe that they could win until they won because they were always like Giannis seemed too nice. Like, how do you win with like the nicest superstar in sports?
Well, you have Chris.
Turns out you can.
Yeah, I mean, you get some complementary pieces that fit really well, and it all works. That's why the Bucks scare me. They've been there, they've done it, and I just feel like for years they pushed so hard to be the number 1 seed in the East, and then now they've learned just throttle down a little bit, go up when it matters, and just let Giannis be the best player in the world. And it works.
Well, when you ask me what worries me about the Celtics, that worries me about the Celtics, that they're not going to be able to throttle back because they have such a tough march. And they put themselves in such a hole early that they're right on that line between being automatically in and being a play-in, and you don't want to be a play-in. You want to be 6 or up, and so they're short bench, right? They basically have an 8-player team. So even if you're young, do you tire your guys out? Like, do you have to pick your spots? Do you have to take some losses where maybe you could move up in those standings a little bit to 4 or 5 and say, we might just have to take this one on the chin because it's better for us to rest Al Horford. It's better for us to not play Jason Tatum 42 minutes just to win this game.
And that's part of, I wrote it on the Celtics mailbag this week. I'm worried about Tatum's minutes because he played at the Olympics 2 out of the last 3.5 years now, and he's been, playing a ton of minutes for this team. You watch JB go down, and now you're thinking, well, they got to play.
All-Star game, and it's the All-Star game, but it's still time on your body.
There's just no downshift besides COVID, which completely hindered him the past 2 years. And so I am worried that what does he have left at the finish line? What all these guys have left when Ime is running with is such a tightened rotation. But I guess he's just made the decision. We're going to win with these 7 or 8 guys, and we're going to lose with these 7 or 8 guys.
Has he made the decision, or has he been forced to make the decision?
No, I think he legitimately
because I don't know that they have a whole lot of other options.
I know he says,
we comfortably have. Did he say last night or this morning or something? We comfortably have 10 players. I was like, do you comfortably have 10 players to go to?
I think I could find 10 players to play. Ime Udoka could not find 10 players that he trusts to throw out there, which is just funny that Aaron Nesmith couldn't get off the bench, and now he's probably going to start a couple of games at least while we wait for Jaylen Brown to come back. But
maybe he learns how to shoot.
I am bullish on Nesmith, but that's a whole other podcast. Let's end on.
Maybe I'll be invited back. I'll read it.
No, I'm telling you, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens here. If people see how much they hate me in the comments or not.
I can't wait. The YouTube page.
Oh, they will. They will. Okay.
The YouTube page. I mean, look, they've come to me for me first, and then they'll come. Then they'll come for you. You'll be a nice change of pace. You already endeared yourself by telling them how much of a Bostonian you are. Ime, what do we thought about the job he's done this year?
At first I was like, maybe he's not right for this, right? Maybe he isn't ready.
He had some missteps.
But whatever he has done with this team, when they turned that corner and had that 9-game win streak, my number one question was, well, what changed? Who said something? Who flipped the switch? Well, why couldn't it? And I'll be honest, we don't know because NBA, could we give us a little more access again now that things are lightening up in the world of COVID? Because it's important to do our job and your fans care about your players.
It'd be nice.
So I don't know if it was him, if it was Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown having that conversation. Was it Marcus Smart calling them out? Was it someone that we don't even know? But something happened, and I think at the very least, if we were going to blame Brad Stevens last year for them not coming together and finding a way to win, I think you have to give some credit to Ime Udoka for finding out how to use his guys, how to get the most out of them when sometimes they don't want to play, and when they don't play well, I love that he takes these guys to task. I think they respect him for that, and even when he calls them out, I don't know how long that'll last, calling him out publicly, but incomplete at this point. But if I had to give him a grade, I guess, probably a B.
B?
B minus?
No, I think I might be up at a B plus. Because here's the thing for me, as I kept saying, I was just
minor deductions for the first part, although you were new, so maybe all right. We'll give him a B. B for Boston.
I should have had our pens ready for this, but because I kept saying, okay, he had some missteps. I thought he played the wrong rotations at times. Dennis Schroeder and Marcus Smart were not a workable combo. Tossed them out there, ran guys hard in different stretches, publicly criticized them, but. Then you could see again. Now we can see it. He only trusted 8 guys, and he
was trying to figure it out.
He figured it out, and so I give him complete credit. And the other thing I go back to is Brad Stevens couldn't get these guys to get out of their bad habits over the course of 7.5 years or 8 years, whatever you want to call it, but specifically with this core, the last 2. And then it was unfair to think that Ime was just going to come in and within 3 months, completely overhaul this thing. So for him to get it to legitimately get them corners turned after 3.5 months is impressive. Still plenty of work to do on all sides. I still think his best days are ahead of him. First-year coaches always struggle. They always are bumps in the road. It's not fair.
And if we're being fair and honest, he's only dealing with the roster that Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens gave him. It's the same with Brad Stevens as the president of basketball operations. You sort of had what you could to work with, money-wise, cap-wise, all of that. You can't decide whether or not they're going to be a good head coach or a good president and coach combo until at least at the minimum another year, probably another 2 years before they've had some time. And I know people don't want to hear that, but you need a little time to get the right people in there and to get the books the way that you want them and your system in and your system accepted.
And the biggest thing was he made the right decision to turn Rob into the free safety, changed their whole defense. So Ime gets credit for that. You've got NBC 10 to do. You've got your own show to host. You're a very busy person. So
my watch has just been bzz, bzz, bzz.
That's not good. I know that feeling. That means producers are angry and have topics they want to talk to you about. Okay. So as a Bostonian, go ahead and go dive into that. We're going to leave you this week. We got a chance to catch up with Allison Feaster on Celtics Post Up, talk about her role within the Celtics organization. We'll leave you with that interview. Go check us out on YouTube. Leave all the pleasant comments for Trenni down below in the comments.
I will.
Download us on your favorite podcast app. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.
Welcome back into Celtics Post Up. Let's welcome in Vice President of Player Development and Organizational Growth for the Celtics, Allison Feaster. And Allison, thank you so much for joining us today in that long, important title. For the folks at home that might not know what that is, what does a regular day entail for you?
Ooh.
First and foremost, thanks for having me. Great to see you guys. I don't know if I have one regular uniform day. I will say that the bulk of it is spent, with my guys, with the team, with the coaching staff, with other front office members, just trying to help this organization be the best it can be, and win some games. I think that's the ultimate goal.
I try to tell people what Allison does, and I'm like, there's not enough time in the day. I don't know how she does all these different things. One of the things I've been impressed with, Allison, is how you forge relationship with players. How important is that coming in, and how do you feel like that has blossomed in your time with the Celtics?
Right. I think it's has the utmost importance for me. I think the players, I know the players at the center of what we do here, they are the ones who out front and center, who have to weather the highs and the lows of the season, above anyone else. And so that was a priority for me from day one. And it's something that, it keeps me going. It's like you walk in this building, you're super thankful for this opportunity to work, for the Celtics organization, for this storied organization. But at the end of the day, it's the guys, it's the people who really make this a wonderful experience for me.
And you spend a lot of time with the guys both on and off of the court. We've been talking about Grant Williams and Rob Williams so much this season. What can you say about their growth on the court so far?
Can't say enough about their growth. Rob, first and foremost, I think he's been with the organization probably 4 seasons, and I came in on his second year in the league, and he's tremendous. I think what people are enamored with on the court, they'd be even more blown away by the person he is off the court. He's a new father, and so I'm just thrilled to see him blossom and to get his just due. Grant Williams, a student of the game, a student of life. And, I think we'll all remember how he began his rookie season, I believe, for 20, 30 something from 3. Yep. And now he's, one of the top shooters in the league. So I'm super proud of him, super proud of his growth and his commitment to being a better player.
Allison, Brad Stevens used to tell us about the responsibility you had in terms of team outings and just team bonding, especially inside the bubble. But I'm curious, this year, how much have you been involved with that? And can you give us any glimpse behind the curtain? Have you guys done anything super cool? Is there super celebrities showing up at the Auerbach Center that we don't know about?
No, unfortunately, since the bubble, we've had to deal with these health and safety protocols, and I have the great misfortune, I'd say, of being the team protocol compliance officer. So I'm the one that gets to, tell everyone to put masks on and say what we can't do because of the health and safety protocol. But we found our way to bond and gel. This has been a transition year for us, but as you can see, the work that the guys are putting in off the court and behind the scenes is really starting to pay off. And each and every person is doing their part. So I'm just happy to be the one to schedule a thing or two here and there.
And when you look around the NBA, there aren't a lot of women, especially women of color, in your position in the front office. Just how has the NBA developed over the years that you've been in the league to kind of break that glass ceiling?
There's been a tremendous amount of it's just been super deliberate on, increasing the candidate pools, super deliberate around being inclusive, around, putting those of us who are in the league, front and center and showing young women and girls that there are opportunities, there are spaces that, can be occupied by women and others. So I applaud the NBA for being super focused on increasing those opportunities and making us more visible. And of course, I'm going to shout out my own organization because we've really made it a focus to become more diverse and just create space for different voices at the table.
Allison, I know how much Brad values your input, and we've heard your name already come up in rumors about other opportunities and potential front office as we see more women get those opportunities around the league. I think of Becky Bonner down in Orlando. How much does that interest you? Do you like having your hands in a little bit of everything, or would you like to be on that side of the operations at some point?
You know, I pride myself, and I'm super fortunate with being here. I want to learn as much as I can. My primary goal is to help this be a winning organization in whatever capacity that is. I certainly am not looking, outwardly. And I think we all are super appreciative of the space. Who knows what the future holds? I just know that I want to be in a place where my input is valued, and I'm satisfied with where I am now. So I love this team. I love this challenge that we have of getting that 18th banner. And so we'll see what happens.
And I want to switch gears really quickly. I don't know if a lot of people, they follow Allison on Instagram and social media, but I do. And what I really enjoy is when you guys are out on the road, those game day stories. But I got to ask you, Allison, who has the best game day heat on their feet? Because I know you have a serious shoe game out there.
If I can't compare to our guys, I mean, you look at Jason, you look at Jaylen and the heat they bring day in and day out. And then, we've got some former players, Javonte Green and so on and so forth. There's a general manager in the G League by the name of Amber Nichols who brings the heat. She posts regularly. So, you can't get caught up because you'll be left behind swiftly, but I just have fun with it. It's a way to connect. It's a way to, touch base with those around the league.
Speaking of your IG story, when you guys were in Indy over the weekend, they put up that little throwback photo on the wall when you were with the Fever. What's it like jumping in that time? Oh my gosh. You had Brad there in his high school uniform. Like, what's it like looking at those old school throwbacks?
It was hilarious, but I'm glad my throwback was a little bit more recent than Brad's was. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's hilarious. And, the guys don't always know, the path you've taken, but it's fun to reflect on those years.
And I just want to throw you one more at you. You're going to speak at the Sloan conference coming up, the analytics. I'm just curious, like, as you immerse yourself, you've done it on the player side. Now you're on the behind the scenes. What's the balance like, and what can you take? What have you learned about analytics that you can give to players that they can digest?
Right. There is, a proliferation of data, of the applications of data and how it can help you be, more successful on and off the court and hiring and playing offense, attacking a certain, defensive strategy. What I will say is that, and it's something one of our coaches likes to echo from time to time, is that, we're human beings and, data adds color and can help clarify a situation. So super, super useful. But if you cannot communicate that and relate to the guys and staff on a human basis, then, I don't know what purpose it serves.
Yeah, that sounds like a tough job. Forsberg is a numbers guy, and he's the person that breaks it down for me, because when I look at those numbers and those advanced analytics, I am on a completely different planet.
The only numbers I trust are ones that tell me that Rob Williams is the best center in the NBA, and I can find those anywhere I look. So I will just run with those and eat them. I got one more for you.
I agree with you.
Thank you. So if the coaches had a little game, or the coaches and the front office people get on the floor, do you jump into those games? I know Brad says he does it. He only does like half court from now on. Could you go out there and whip all these guys?
I played one and only time in my 3 years here with the Celtics, and I've been out of commission since. But I can tell you that something I like to say to myself when I was a player: 3 is more than 2, and I did knock down some 3-pointers. So that's my analytics nugget for the day.
Look, that's all you need, knocking down those 3-pointers out there. But I can relate. Once you put that one game out there, it's just I'm packing it up for the rest.
I thought you were saying you could relate by knocking down.
No, I'm not knocking down things. I might knock down a free throw though. All right, thanks so much, Allison, for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure.